one of the first and best traits that you can bring to our organization or any organization is curiosity. I think being curious is what fuels learning. It's what fuels testing. It's what fuels innovation. And so we often ask ourselves, how might we do this thing differently? How might we approach something with a different attitude? And so I think the natural curiosity that lives within my team was certainly pressure tested during this time. But it really was something that I found that it was an unlock for us. And it yielded so many incredible results and new ideas.
Welcome to the Rosie Effect, where I give you the keys to lead digital transformation. I'm your host, Rosie Amponsa. Today's guest, Daria Burke. Daria is the Chief Marketing Officer of JustFab, responsible for global brand awareness and positioning, overseeing all marketing functions across channels and geographies. As part of her role, Daria leads and develops JustFab's customer acquisition strategy, responsible for driving global membership growth and revenue for the brand. Burke works closely with the company's data science and media measurement teams to ensure JustFab marketing initiatives leverage the latest customer analytics, trends, and other insights. Burke joined JustFab in 2019 following years spent building iconic fashion and beauty brands through innovative marketing initiatives. Most recently, Burke led fashion and retail advertising partnerships at Facebook, where she developed brand and performance marketing solutions for advertisers across Facebook and Instagram. She also evangelized emerging technologies such as native checkout, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence-driven customer messaging. Prior to joining Facebook, Burke served as head of beauty strategy, innovation, and experience at CVS, leading omni-channel growth initiatives and serving as an architect of the Beauty IRL concept. Burke was one of the 10 founding team members of Rent the Runway, where she contributed to the brand's rapid growth. Early in her career, she served in a series of marketing roles of increasing responsibilities at some of the world's leading beauty brands, including Estée Lauder, Lancôme, and Yves Saint Laurent. Daria holds a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Michigan, Go Blue, and a Master of Business Administration from the New York University Stern School of Business. Go Sternies! We're talking the intersection of beauty, fashion, retail, and technology. The now, it's needed. Let's get into the conversation. Good afternoon, good evening, Daria. Thank you so very much for taking time to join me here at the Rosie Effect.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to chat.
Goodness, you come to the table with so much experience. What I really love about your background is your expertise working within tech companies and then also within the beauty, the fashion, the retail industry. And so you really are at the forefront of understanding what change looks like when we talk about digital transformation within the beauty industry. So why don't you give me an understanding from your perspective, the expert? Can you tell I'm excited? Okay. Give me an understanding of what success looks like when we talk about digital transformation within the beauty retail industry.
Yeah, I think honestly, regardless of the industry, and we can get specific on fashion and beauty as well, but in general, I think any digital transformation is going to be successful if you have three key elements. The first is alignment, right? You have to actually understand what it is that you're setting out to do. What are the KPIs involved, right? The key performance indicators of that initiative. And so what are you trying to transform? And is everyone aligned, right? And alignment isn't just, do we all understand what the desired outcome is? Alignment also comes comes in with making sure that your product organization is poised to build to a business objective, right? And so if you are in a digital landscape currently at JustFab as the CMO, I have both brand and performance marketing under my scope. And we work very closely with our product team. We have a D2C business model that is all powered through membership commerce, right? So it's all e-commerce. And so I can't do my job without them, right? I need to be able to deliver the best customer experiences through digital, in a digitally enabled tools, devices, and channels. So we've got to make sure that, we have alignment there as well, that our product organization is both stood up and poised and able to deliver from a resource perspective against what the business requires. And that, they understand how to design into the desired outcome of business growth, right, of performance. And so alignment is critical. And that's the first thing that I think you have to have in order to be successful. Org alignment, strategic alignment, and alignment against the objectives. And then the second thing you have to have, and you probably are not surprised that I'm saying this, is customer feedback, right? We spend an inordinate amount of time speaking with, surveying, conducting user testing with our members at JustFab in order to effectively prioritize and then implement important new changes for them, right? We want to make sure that they have the best possible experience with us. And so success from that perspective, I think, requires a very healthy appetite for testing and learning. I think that is such a hyper-used term in digital, but it really is the core to what is going to make you successful. You have to be able to stand up the right types of testing environments, and again, with the right understanding of the customer journey in mind. You might have two really great ideas for how to establish, one test versus another, or maybe you're testing versus your existing control. But you've got to also be able to think through what her journey might look like, as nonlinear as it is and as increasingly nonlinear as it seems to be. So how do you also then anticipate that? And the only way to really get to the heart of what will power your business is to test and to learn it. And so for us, we do that, and we explore platforms and process, and we get really creative with how to reach our customers. And I think with that ability to and openness to testing and learning has to then, be paired with a lack of fear, right? You have
to, you can say that again.
Sort of wade into those uncharted waters to see what works. And if it doesn't work, you learn from it and you pivot. And, as I always say to my team, you make better mistakes in the next test, right? You make new mistakes. And if you can design with the end in mind, then you can sort of be agile along the way. And that's the third piece I would say is really important, is agility. You have to be able to take what you're learning and pivot quickly against it. You might find little insights that help you optimize along the way to the bigger unlock, but you got to have the ability to do that, right? And to put those in place. And so you're always sort of laying the tracks as the train is moving, it seems.
Wow. So you've really summed up what digital transformation basically is and the key elements for success. You talked about alignment. You talked about the sense of testing and the sense of agility, being able to pivot very quickly. So within your organization, how should leadership be looking at defining success? Let's say success within retail, beauty. How should, leadership that have the power to make that change, how should they be measuring success when it comes to looking at that transformative change that they want?
So in any business, whether you're running digital media or, you're just looking at your overall performance for an email campaign or, your overall e-commerce strategy and performance of your business, you're looking at key KPIs like revenue. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about conversion, so the rate at which people are saying yes to your business or to your brand. And then you're looking at acquisition, both in terms of volume, so how many people are coming in, as well as the cost of acquiring that customer. So I would say those are probably the three biggest indicators. But again, it depends on what that digital transformation is designed to do. If you're redesigning your website, you might also be thinking about secondary KPIs, or in that case, those would be primary KPIs like session time on the site. You might be looking at the number of units per transaction and were you able to increase it. You're looking at the average order value maybe of the customer base. You might also be thinking about frequency of purchase, or your merch purchase rate, and so the rate at which they're coming back to you and shopping more frequently. So I think every digital transformation should be specific in nature and should have, as a result, very specific KPIs in mind. And so you're going to always have your macro level view of, are we generating more revenue? Is the customer spending more time and more money with us? And are we getting more customers to our business at a cost-effective rate, right? That is sort of table stakes. And then within that, you're always really lasering in on and being very surgical about the specific success metrics that matter to whatever that digital transformation is meant to facilitate.
And I love how everything that you're touching on, I'm hearing the customer, I'm hearing how can we serve the customer better. And sometimes, organizations can get so excited about the technology and what it is they're implementing that, do you even know who the best customer is? Or like you said, the worst customer, or someone, what does that acquisition cost look like? What does the cost of a loss of a customer look like? And all these different factors that come into the true value of generating revenue for the business and so forth. When initially you talked about the pillars of success in digital transformation, and you honed in on that testing factor, I'd love to get a bit more deeper, if you are open to sharing a unique sort of, unconventional way that you've implemented or you've seen within the organization that has created impact, or at least given you visibility to know that this is the change that's forthcoming. This is what we need to do in order to be well positioned to serve our customers better.
Sure. I mean, I will start by saying that digital inherently lends itself to innovation. So I don't know that there are very many conventions or traditions baked into digital. And I think that's part of what makes it really fun. And so a lot of things that we do can feel unconventional because you're maybe doing them for the first time, or because where you are in the sort of digital ecosystem and timeline, there's a new product or new technology that's helping facilitate that you can try something new and different, right? So it's tough, but I think that one of the things that we have done that has been unique, and certainly that has helped us succeed, has been creating really right testing ground on everything from pricing strategy to our promotional strategy to your landing page experiences for your customers. So picking up on that last example, we run media, millions of dollars in media, in predominantly digital media, to drive customers to our website. And at JustFab, we have a membership commerce model, which means that we have a recurring revenue model where you join and you become a member, and you get all sorts of great benefits as a result of that.
Yeah.
And so as part of the process of joining and learning about us, you take a quiz and you give us a bit of information about your style and what maybe your fashion occasions are that you're dressing for. And then we ultimately, can give you very personalized recommendations. Well, not only do we do that in terms of your, the quiz results and the merchandise that you see, but we actually have different landing page experiences for our customers based on the channel where they come from, based on the advertising that we have, based on what you saw in the advertising, you may have a different landing page experience. So I think that is one area that is definitely, I don't know that it's very new, but it is unconventional in the sense that we put incredible rigor into designing those experiences as much as we would into designing our website. And so, your first time visitor experience is equally important for us, right, as that overall landing page experience. And so how do we honor what brought you into the brand and drove you into the brand by giving you a different landing experience from lots of other customers? So I think that's one that definitely we test and learn into all of the time. And it's been a strategy that has brought a lot of success to our business because it shows how personalized and specific we are based on the customer's interest.
I'm excited, and I'm quite interested to know what kind of changes to the business happened, especially in this era of, the pandemic or the lockdown? It impacted us in so many different ways. What were some of the changes you saw in the business, and how has JustFab been able to kind of gallop up, take advantage? Because granted, it's kind of already in the digital sphere. You've already been building that for quite some time. And now it looks like that's mainly the only option if you're trying to reach an end consumer. So what were those changes and what were those opportunities for an organization like JustFab?
Yeah, so the opportunities, you said it, right? I mean, retail shut down for a period of time, brick and mortar retail. And so the customer's ability to shop was completely dependent on an e-commerce ecosystem, which as an e-commerce only business is very exciting. And it was for us, I think we were well poised for that shift, from everything in terms of how we do business every day to how we advertise. I mean, we have the ability, because digital media and digital advertising is so critical to how we generate awareness of our brand and, drive customer acquisition. We were able to really watch where we were seeing conversions, where we were seeing efficiency in, customer acquisition costs, or where we were seeing them increase. And so it really, I think the nimbleness that we typically bring to our work really just played out as a strength, and it was something that we could be opportunistic about. But, there were a lot of changes that had to be implemented as well when suddenly everybody is sent to work from home and shelter in place. And, we're continuing to try to lead a brand and lead a business during this pandemic. And I think for me personally, leadership under these, extraordinary circumstances, it required a shift in how we did almost everything, right? And so how we did our day-to-day, for me personally, I have a very large team, and I have a creative team especially, and a styling team that their job is to be with the merchandise and to be with each other and to touch product and to feel it and to shoot on models. And so, we had to get creative there for sure, from sample coordination to producing to photography to styling. There were so many people whose day-to-day jobs were heavily impacted as a result. And so formalizing new ways of working to enable people to work from home. And so, I think it was just getting our head around that. And I had to first be incredibly vigilant about maintaining the physical and the psychological safety of my team. And then from there, you say, okay, well, how do we get scrappy and get creative? And so, for example, one of the things that we did that I'm really proud of is my photographers built little studios at home. And we actually had samples shipped to their homes, where in their backyards or in their private studios, in their garage, in a second bedroom, they actually captured all of our PDP photography for our site. So, for months we were shooting, we weren't shooting on model, we were shooting lay downs, and, we were doing things on form, or, if it's footwear, luckily you can actually just prop the shoes up usually, but even then getting creative on some of the styles that maybe needed to be on form as well. And they did that from home. And that was really incredible and remarkable. So you had the styling team styling the looks on PowerPoints
and basically shooting it out,
sending them, and then shooting them at home, and then, having samples being shipped directly into the photographers' homes. And so all of that was really new and different. And then once things got a little bit, I would say, more open in terms of sheltering in place, and we're all still sheltering in place at home.
We're still going
working from home until 2021, and we will continue to do so. But we were able to start to work with photographer and model pairings, many of whom were sheltering in place together. And, whether it was because they were friends and roommates, or in some cases, a photographer who his fiance or girlfriend was a model, and they did shoots at home. And so we, again, styled out the looks and sent them to them, and then they were able to actually capture it, the two of them, at home. So we got really creative, but, you can't overestimate how much impact. I mean, it's immeasurable, the impact that a crisis of this magnitude has on everyone. And so I think it really has come down to, yes, being creative and trying to be nimble to some extent, but being compassionate, being empathetic, having the humanity live in the work. And I think the most important thing that I could do with my team was just to let them know that, what was normal and how we were evaluating success when we were all together and in the office, it couldn't completely be the same, right? It couldn't be true. And so it doesn't mean that you relax your standards of excellence or that you don't continue to drive the business, but you have to put that into context, and you have to reckon with the reality of having 50 people working from their respective homes, and in some cases, their parents' homes, or wherever they may have gone when we had to shelter in place. And so that was a very stark reality. And so the humanity that is required to lead a team through that time, the compassion, the empathy, I've relied on that more than any tactical skill that I've learned or technical skill I've learned in my career.
Wow. And as a leader, really managing such a huge team, I'm so excited that you hone in on the value of empathy, the value of really understanding the capacity in which we're all being put in. And so how best do we deliver on excellence, but at the same time realizing what does the psychological sense of wellness look like for my team, and how do I position them for success? This is amazing. Let's delve right into people, because you've kind of already gotten in there. I mean, I'm super impressed. When we talk about the team that makes your vision a success, are you able to shed some light on what those characteristics look like, right? Because if anything happened, this kind of pandemic forced us to change, whether we liked it or not, right? And a lot of things, we don't know what's going to happen next year, if we're able to return back to normal, if that's a thing. But some things are also going to kind of take its course. So what are those skill sets, whether it's an individual that's looking to sort of go on their individual transformation, whether it's leadership looking to identify and rebuild new teams, what are they looking for?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I think this is something that I look for when we're hiring a new person in general. The one of the first and best traits that you can bring to our organization or any organization is curiosity. I think being curious is what fuels learning. It's what fuels testing. It's what fuels innovation. And so we often ask ourselves, how might we do this thing differently? How might we approach something with a different attitude? And so I think the natural curiosity that lives within my team was certainly pressure tested during this time. But it really was something that I found that it was an unlock for us. And it yielded so many incredible results and new ideas. So that's one. I think you'll never not hear me talk about the customer. And so that passion around her experience and her journey is critical. And I think you have to love and be so deeply dedicated to making it amazing for her. She has an infinite choice when it comes to where she can buy shoes or other, fashion and apparel, accessories. And so how do we make sure that we deliver a customer experience that is exciting, that is easy, that is free of friction. And so you've got to have passion for that. And I think people who play to win, I talked so much about testing, but I think that sort of is paired with this desire to compete and to play to win. I think you can work really hard, and that is important and right. But I think there's a different shift in your mindset when you rally around a team effort and a goal, competing together to your next best level, right? Your next best thing. And so playing to win is super important. I think having a culture of success and celebrating even the small wins along the way, I think it certainly helps fuel that. And you got to be vigilant about the results, right? If you are going to enter into your work with a curiosity and a passion for the customer experience, then you've got to be willing to sort of let the data lead you and understand where to go next, but be just as vigilant about what you learn and implementing that as you do, sort of the process along the way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. I just love your passion. I can hear it foundationally for people, whether it's those that are on your team or understanding the customer and you using she and describing what the customer wants and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool to hear from your perspective on that. Let's delve a bit deeper into impact of what the pandemic has brought us. From certain industries, it's laid bare the discrepancies within our communities. So I'm interested to know from your expertise within beauty, retail, what has the discrepancy looked like, and how has an organization like JustFab, how are you positioned to be able to fill in some of those gaps?
Oh boy, that's a big one. This is so important to me to be able to leverage our brand and our platform and stand behind equity and diversity and inclusion in every way that we can. It's so important to me. And, there is the internal piece of it that is very much around how we hire and how we think about training and retention and making sure that teams are diverse, and be having the conversation with recruiting and saying, I have not seen enough diverse candidates. I will not fill this role until I've seen more.
Hold on. Wait. So you're telling me that organizations that stood up, made a pledge when racial injustices came out and company after company was signed, they can actually make such a demand and a sort of a foundational ask within their hiring processes to create change?
Listen, that's the only way it's going to happen. I fundamentally believe that every hiring manager should own the responsibility for their team and for, every role that they're filling. And I think that they should absolutely feel empowered and comfortable saying to their recruiting teams or executive recruiters or headhunters, whoever they're working with, I have not seen enough diversity. I want to see more, and this role will stay open until I feel like I've got a chance to evaluate a fair number of candidates. Absolutely. I expect it. I have that conversation with my team, and I feel really lucky because at Textile, we have an incredible head of diversity and inclusion, and we have a recruiting team that inherently just gets it, and they're just as involved in our D&I initiatives. In fact, some of them were created and started with one of the leaders on our recruiting team. And so, to have that built into the ecosystem and the ethos of the brand is critical, and it's important. And so it starts there. And I think from there, that is how you get to a place where you can authentically address customer feedback. You can address customer issues. You can provide a service or a set of products that actually meet the needs of a range of women, right? It's really important to me. So,
man.
And for our brand, and one of the core beliefs for JustFab is that fashion should exist for and be available to more than a few people. And so for us, that means having a strategy where our merchandise is available in a wide range of sizes. So when we talk about footwear, you're talking about size 5.5 on the smallest size right now, up to a size 12, and then up to a size 3X in apparel. We have options for women who have a wide foot and they want a wider width. We have available options for wide calves, and when we look at boots. And so, being able to deliver breadth in our assortment is part of that. It's really hard to stand up and say that you stand for inclusive fashion or beauty without actually offering something for most people. And we believe that every woman should be able to look great, feel great, find an amazing pair of shoes, not spend a ton of money doing so, and that they can be shoes to live her life in, whatever that life looks like. Right. So that, I would say, is the sort of first and foremost sort of area of focus from a customer facing or sort of external perspective is the merch. And then that second area that sort of dovetails off of that then is our ads. It's our imagery. It is the marketing and featuring women of different ethnic backgrounds and different sizes and different ages. And, I think if you've spent any time on our site and seen some of our ads and our social media, you would see that, and you've probably noticed that has shifted quite a bit. It was something that was really important to me coming into this role, and you will see a lot more of it to come in the coming months. But yeah, making sure that from the hair and makeup that we hire for our photo shoots, to the models that we cast, to the brand ambassadors that we work with. We have a very wide range of incredible talent, and we're really thoughtful about that, making sure we have makeup artists who can work with different skin tones, right? Making sure our hairstylists can work with different hair textures, and not just straight hair, but braids, or afro textured hair, curls, updos, whatever it is. Being able to have that depth of knowledge of the range of what women look like, and making sure that the customer base that we have, which is so incredibly diverse, sees herself, and that representation is very clear. And it's so important to me. And then the last piece of it, I would say that sort of rounds that out from a marketing perspective, and I touched on a little bit, is our influencers, and really working with brand ambassadors who have the widest range of lifestyles and geography, and working with women in Spain and in London and New York, LA, who are petite, who are tall, who are regular size or curve size, right? And really, again, just making sure that representation is clear in all of those touch points. So it's deeply important, and it's important that we have diverse teams, that we have diverse thinking as a result of having different people in the room. And I'm not talking about cognitive diversity that you think differently than I do, like, of course, right? But really thinking about what it means to have diversity in the room. And so someone who has one ethnic background or another, who speaks this language or another, can bring insight into it and say, should we say that? Is that inclusive enough for somebody maybe who is disabled? Is that inclusive enough to someone who, may have this different background? And so, it starts there. And from there, I think you really can very authentically build merchandise and a marketing strategy that feels just as inclusive and diverse, hopefully as your customer base, but definitely of the world where that we're living in.
Allow for the customer to see herself represented. Wow. You've gone and you've touched a lot into the value of culture, and how, especially during these times, you're really navigating it foundationally with empathy. And so when it comes to things have shifted, things are different. And then now we need to upskill our people. We need to train them. We need to have them well equipped so they're ready to create that sort of community competition. What does that look like for you?
So I think there's a couple of ways that we approach this. One, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge Strengths Finder nerd, or Clifton Strengths.
OMG, same here. I have a friend that hates me for doing that, but I feel like, why not?
It's such a great tool, and I think of it as a tool that helps me achieve three different things. One is the individual strengths of the person, right? And what are you naturally good at, and or what are talents that you have that through consistency become strengths, right? Because really talent plus rigor and consistency equals a strength. And so what are those for everybody on my team? So I do that with my leadership team, and then they do it with their teams. And it's such an interesting tool. So thinking about it from an individual perspective, and how do I make sure that you're living your best life through your work? And then sort of the next layer to that is, as a team, as a collective, what does the sort of collective superpower look like when you bring all those strengths together? Who is the person that might be your sort of your blind spot coverage, right? Like, who might actually be somebody whose strength is an area where you're not as strong, and how do you work together? So I actually have kind of pairings within my leadership team based on their strengths. And then finally, those blind spots, right? What blind spots may exist as a result of the org makeup, and that helps you think through how you recruit, who you need to hire into, and then areas of training, right? Actual areas of working through opportunities and getting people, up-leveling people to your question. And so we do those with lots of different things. We have a series of LinkedIn learning courses that we have available to all of the employees in the company. And each manager on my team is expected to create a curriculum for LinkedIn learning trainings for the folks on their team. And so, they're the closest to their strengths and opportunities. And so it's really important that we do that. We have a number of virtual offsites and workshops. Now they're all virtual because, we all have to work remotely, but really thinking about bringing together, whether it's folks from our leadership and development teams internally, sometimes external speakers. We also, I buy my team's books a lot. I send them, TED Talks, and I send them books quite a bit.
Wow. What's the last book you bought for them?
Oh, I think the last book I bought for them is Micro Resilience by Bonnie St. John. It's a really good one. We talked about, write that one down. Bonnie St. John is a really incredible thinker and woman. And if you don't know her history, she was a Paralympian and a Paralympic skier, and just a really incredible woman and leader. And she has written tons of books, but one of her latest ones is around micro resilience and ultimately how do you build in ways to be more productive and to get a boost of energy, and how do you sort of fuel your life and your work, and so some really great hacks. So that was probably one of the last ones. And then another book that I was recently talking to my team about is Radical Candor, and that one is more about how we show up as a leader, and can you actually challenge directly when things need to get addressed, but do it with empathy and do it with heart. So those are a couple of the things, but we do a lot of workshops and virtual learning and sessions like that as a result. And then we actually have a tool that we use called 15-5, and it's a really fun
tool. I'm taking a lot of notes here.
I know, it's another one. Every week we everyone rates their week, and you say on a scale of 1 to 5, how was your week? And we'll tailor the questions every week based on what's going on for the week or information that perhaps was shared out. And we have in that tool the ability to give people high fives. So you can go in and high five folks who have, maybe they helped you on a project, or you really loved a presentation that they gave, or they had a great idea, or, they helped you through a problem, or somebody that you really don't get to see a lot, especially now, right, that we're virtual, and you just want to high five them and recognize, I still see you. So it's a really great tool for that. And I think all of those have been great ways to continue to up-level people, because it's not always about a technical skill. And we do, also lunch and learns and things like that, where we'll have a leader come in and present their area of expertise. But technical expertise aside, so much of what I think leadership is learning how to show up for people and learning how to motivate them, inspire them. How do you create a vision? How do you see it through? I am only as good as my team. I am only as successful as they are. I'm not physically doing all of the work. And so I really care a lot about my managers being able to manage well, and managing managers, right?
Exactly.
In some cases, they're managing managers. And so we spend just as much time and energy and focus on leadership development and sort of the personal development that comes along with it.
Finding your strengths, being able to build. And what I loved about the pairing that you talked about too is it actually lends itself to be beneficial when you actually have a diverse team, different backgrounds, so much more to learn when you're paired with someone that does not look like you, completely different background. You be so much more open to learn and build those skill set to be better for the role in which you're in.
Exactly. And when you have, I was thinking about my leadership team, and I have 2 women who are so deeply adept at relationship building. And, how does that help, whether it's new people on the team, right? And just they are a wealth of knowledge and facilitators of strong relationships, paired with people who are really strong at executing and getting things done, right? And how do you marry those together? So it's true, you wind up with what feels like infinite possibilities and permutations for collective strengths when you can bring people together that way. And within that, I have ethnic diversity as well, and racial diversity, and I have sort of national diversity diversity, people from different
Wow.
countries, sort of that all feeding into that. But it also, you think about the technical layer of that as well. If somebody's really good at influencing others and somebody else is really good at executing or strategic thinking, what does
How do
it
you bring
mean when you
those
start to bring all of the
together?
richness of those differences together?
Wow. I think we need to write a use case for your organization because a business school could really utilize this. This sounds pretty amazing. Before we get into the last question, I'd love your perspective on different incidences that we've seen come up in the virtual world where the beauty industry, creates a product or launches something that seems to negate certain women, most likely women of color, most likely Black women that look like that look like us. And so, how do you think leadership should go about solving this issue, and how how do you go about even preventing it in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked a lot about it in terms of prevention, right? It starts with having people in the room. I think that, but even if you don't have the most diverse team, it is my hope that people are thinking about and collecting and consuming a range of experiences. And I mean, in this day and age, there is literally no excuse to not know what customer feedback might look like. I mean, you could do Instagram polling right now. You could, there are so many ways to gauge what people are looking for, and you have to ask. And if you don't know, you have to ask. It's really simple. So I think one is just asking the question of your customers, of your team, and finding diverse voices as inputs. The second piece, because at some point it becomes it's more than a blind spot. If you're just ignoring the fact that you don't have a diverse team or
Right.
you're reaching a diverse
Right.
customer, like there is no shortage of data that tells us that there's, especially when you're talking about beauty and fashion, like beauty is a category for especially for women of color. Beauty has no budget when you're talking about Black and Latino women, right? Like our beauty has no budget. So,
Oh
so
man.
there's no shortage of Nielsen data reports and studies that have been done that talk about the financial upside and the market size and the customer buying power. And so I'm not even going to go there, because if you don't know those stats at this point, like that's more than a blind spot. You're just choosing not to do
Not
it.
you're just
So
ignoring it.
ask the question, right? Ask the question. If you don't have diverse teams, especially, but
Oh
whether you do or don't,
man.
ask what people want to see and hear from you. That is critical. And you have to look out into the world and see how people are expressing themselves and what they're consuming. And, again, this landscape is so competitive now. It is so easy to create. I hate saying it's so easy, but it kind of is. It's never been easier. Let's put it that way. It's never been easier to create a new lipstick line or to, create a line of foundation. So, or skincare products. So you've got to be curious about what's going to, serve the needs of other people. And I think people are paying attention, right? They're noticing that that's a thing. When Fenty Beauty launched, it's a perfect example of a brand that really kind of broke the internet. I mean, it really showed up so bold in its posture around diversity and inclusivity. And now Rare Beauty has launched by Selena Gomez, and they have also done that and shown up with that posture. And it's not to say that it's just those brands. There are plenty of brands out there that are showing up with that in mind and thinking about it first and not reacting to the market. But you have to care about people. If you really care about creating products that people love and enjoy, then you should also be thinking about as many people in the world getting to do that, right? And even if you're in luxury, I think it's important to consider what that means for your luxury brand, right? So, inherently supply and demand are very different levers that you pull in luxury, but it's the same idea that anybody who has the propensity to spend on your product, your service, your business, you should be thinking about what might inspire them. How might I be more attractive to this audience of people? But yeah, I mean, I think it's not a secret that Black women have largely been ignored or tokenized in beauty and in fashion. And it is it's time that it changed. And I appreciate the response from a lot of brands in light of what has gone on in the world. And there is a new awareness and a new consciousness that I think many people have come into over the past few months. And I'm grateful for that. And I think whatever it facilitates and the change that we see in the world, I'm grateful for that. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been required, right? We shouldn't have needed to see the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor for people to show up with a new awareness around Black Lives Mattering. But here we are. And so I'm grateful for that. For me, it's deeply personal. So it's been integrated into my work throughout my career and definitely in what we do at JustFab. I mean, our last campaign that we shot in New York just a few months ago, all COVID compliant, but and virtual for our team.
Yeah.
But all COVID compliant. Everybody got tested before we went on set and everything. But we had 4 Black models in that campaign, and showing the range of, Black women who are Afro-Latina, who are biracial, who are from the continent, who are, African American, and showing the range of sizing and that type of diversity, and it matters. And it was really important to me to do that because at a minimum, I want any woman who sees, those assets and sees that creative to know that we see you, we see you, I see you. And so it's really personal to me. And so it's not going to be personal to every brand, and I get that, but I think they have to find a way through their curiosity about the world, about people, about innovation, and about making more money.
Hello, you trying to increase your revenue or not? Like, what's good?
Yeah, to reach out to that customer and to be appealing to that customer. So I hope that more people do it for the right reasons. But I am encouraged by the momentum that has started to swell around the awareness and the increased visibility of Black women. And I feel like I heard this on one of my favorite podcasts. That's not the Rosie Effect.
Hello, put it on your list, please.
Exactly. But one of my other favorite podcasts, where they were saying how, the Obama era was so much about being seen. And I think the era that we're in now is very much about being heard. And I think that's happening. I think that's true. And I think we're all sort of reckoning with what that looks like. And I think that more shifts are coming.
Just what you said, I think it's rich. So I'm actually going to have us end it here because you've honed it on what needs to be done. You've honed in on showing reflection within your own team, and at the core of it, the empathy, understanding the end consumer and caring about what it is they care about and being able to have that reflected in your organization. You've gone through it all. You've lifted up the curtains, the carpets, whatever it might be, and you've delved deeper. So at this point, if they don't want to listen, then I don't know what to tell them, Daria, I'm so grateful for your time. This has been an amazing conversation with the change that's all around us. This is the kind of insight that leadership, is looking for to be able to equip themselves for this new sort of next decade, this new change. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And again, congratulations on the launch of your podcast. I'm so excited for you. I love the angles that you're taking and the perspective that you're bringing to digital transformation. I think it's so right. It's so right now. And thank you for the great conversation and interview. I'm really appreciative and excited for your listeners.
Yes. Have a beautiful rest of your day, Daria.
Take care.
All right, leaders, this is a wrap. You can tell I was excited about this one. Daria is an amazing person, and I'm so grateful to have got the opportunity to sit down with her and learn from her. Not only did she really delve into the key metrics of what success looks like when we're talking about digital transformation, but she hones in on exactly how leadership can go about taking the conversation of implementing diversity, inclusion, equity within organizations into actual implementation. So I'm super grateful for the discussion, honing in on the value of empathy and leading teams, as a leader, this is the discussion you want to listen to. So you're well equipped to lead your teams, especially during times of such change and impact, both to our business and to the path to the consumer as well. I hope you enjoyed it. Share it with a friend. And as you know already, we don't walk to the Rosie Effect because it's that amazing. We run to the Rosie Effect. My team does an amazing job, and I'm always so excited to share it with you. Go over to therosieeffect.com. That is TheRosieEffect.com and subscribe. Did you enjoy it? Share your feedback right here on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast platform. I personally enjoy reading your feedback, and I'd love to see more of it. So go ahead and share your perspective, your feedback, questions you might have, and let's get this into a discussion. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm your host, Rosie Amponsa.